The chop is real, my friends. The chop is very, very real. And the trap is very, very real. Today, we're talking about the chop that went down Tuesday. Choppy, wild Tuesdays. Turbo chop Tuesdays. Let's get into it. Pulling up the 15-minute chart with the Lux Algo price action concepts indicator on here. You can see this morning, chop, 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 crazy chop. What I want to point out, though, is what did we get at open? We did get one key thing. We talked about this over the weekend, right? I've been talking about this on the channel, this idea of one thing happening. And guess what happened? Can you figure it out? Can you look at the chart and figure it out, my friends? I'll give you a second. It shouldn't be that hard to figure out. What do we got? We got this support down there at the bottom. And what was that support? Why did we get supported there? Well, that was the Monday low, the previous day low at that 75 level. So we bounced off that low yesterday, or that was the overnight, but that was Monday morning. The low was that, I don't know, fuck it. That level, 75 is the low. So we bounced around, and we held it one more time. We didn't get that pop back up. So the market was insanely choppy. That 3-minute chart, look at the 30-minute chart, chop city. We had that fair value gap there on the 30-minute chart acting as resistance here as well. So just a lot of chop today on the daily chart. We're basically like in the inside of the previous candle yesterday. So a lot of just choppy action. The VWAP was a big player today as well. A lot of issue with the VWAP, just kind of acting as a magnet there at the 86s pretty much all day. We had a pivot point on the ES at the 95 level as well, and that's exactly where we got stuck at here. So we got stuck right there at that 95 pivot, and well, the market kind of just chopped around there. Let's talk about the trap, though. Let's talk about the trap today. We had a really, I think, good setup here on this trap move. We also had that bounce off the lows. So if you had, the Lux Algo indicator, if you just had the previous day low pulled up there, you would know that 75 area being support, get that pop back up. But I was really kind of impressed. I wanted to talk about this setup right here, how this all played out. So let's just get rid of everything else for now so we can focus on what we have here on the chart. So on the 3-minute chart, you can see we pushed up here to this previous little high area. We actually pushed above it. We had that high right there at the 96s, and that would also put us right there where that pivot point is. So we have a pivot point on the ES pretty much right there at that 95 level. There's a pivot, right? So we got stuck right there at that pivot. We had the low down here from that 75s. What's interesting is we definitely trapped the 75s this morning. There was 100%. We talked about that trap, the 75s, and then we ended up trapping it again when we bounced off it earlier. So we bounced off it there, trap, and then squeeze back up here on the 3-minute chart. But I want to show you guys this really, I think, beautiful trap setup here. And look at this thing. Pivot point there, the 395 or the 95s there. We have this pullback, right? And we're kind of holding here, holding this level. But look what happens. What's telling here on this chart right now? What's kind of like, interesting. What is looking very telling? If you guys see it. Do you see it? Look at this little wick right there. That would definitely be 100% a trap. So if we think about it, basically we know that our resistance is here. We kind of trap liquidity above there for a second, above 94. But basically, here's that trap. We're pushing back up into this level. We trap it, and then we get that move down. So where do you want to be shorting at? Obviously, you want to be shorting once we get that denial there. So you're like shorting this breakdown here from the 91s, looking for that move. We had the VWAP. The VWAP was like right here. So we were looking for that move back to the VWAP there. And then it actually got all the way down to the 82s. I thought this was a really good setup. Kind of in hindsight, it looks obviously really, really good. The problem was, we pushed off the lows. We pushed up. So it's hard to go from like when the market's pushing to all of a sudden, now how do you switch from, if you got long down here, you take profit up here. Now you're like, okay, well, I'm going to look for a short off of this high. So it's kind of tricky sometimes when the market's kind of pushing up and then getting that next downward move. Being able to go from being long to all of a sudden being able to be like, okay, now I'm shorting. But I think, there's definitely something to be said about the idea that we had that pivot point right there at 95s. We had that resistance earlier. We had the 96 resistance. There was a lot of resistance here in this area. Terrible line, but this whole area here, just a lot of resistance. So that's something to think about. You know, when we push off the lows down there at the bottom, we push off the lows, there at the lows. Now we're pushing, okay, now we're thinking we're going to push here. And then, oh, I'm really not like the best kind of range trader. A lot of people say they love trading ranges, but I personally, I don't really love trading ranges. I want to trade breakouts, breakdowns. I don't really want to trade, you know, in between, 20 points, 10 points here, 20 points from the 75s to the 95s. 20 points on the day. It's currently 12 o'clock here in the afternoon, and the market's pretty much just going sideways here. And that's just kind of how it happens sometimes. You're going to have good days. You're going to have bad days. You're going to have the setups. You're going to have no setups. Today, I think there was a couple of setups there. We saw a couple traps. We talked about it on the stream, a couple of reversal traps and things like that. It's just, you know, kind of constantly just building up that confidence and building up that like vision of seeing these moves, right? Like you got to be able to kind of see it and be like, oh, that's a trap. Oh, that's a setup. Oh, that's where I want to be entering. So you kind of have to like really be able to be subjective, right? Because you don't want to have a bias. Like you really don't want to be like, oh, we bounced off the bottom twice, so I'm just going to be looking for longs from now on. I'm only going to be looking to get long. Well, you know, there was a really good setup for a short at the top, especially with that pivot. I love the pivots, so you know, why would I not play the pivot as support and resistance? Yes, we talk about the idea of those pivots being magnets to the price action, but they also act as support and resistance. So if a pivot turns into resistance, why would I not want to take a trade against that? So it's just, you know, a process, honestly, for me. Like I'm just trying to get to a point where I'm just like consistently doing what I need to do every day, consistently, you know, taking the trades that I want to take, consistently looking for those big moves. Now, I wouldn't say consistently looking for the big moves, but I'm looking for the moves to levels that make sense. I'm not just jumping in and then taking profit just because I think the market's going to move, you know, one handle up or down. I'm taking profit, or I'm looking for areas that are giving me like actual reasons to take profit, or giving me like signals like, oh, this is an area to take profit at. Oh, this is an area to, you know, to get long at. I want those signals, and I want those to register, and I want it to be like flash, 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 you know, like right in my face telling me like, hey, this is where you want to be trading at. So sometimes we get those setups, sometimes we don't. Today was a perfect example of just a kind of day where I think there was money to be made today, but it was just difficult. The price just did not want to move. You know, you get into a trade, all of a sudden you're up 3 handles, and then you're back to break even. And I talked about that before. Like I hate this idea of like I'm jumping into trades, I'm up $300, $400, $500, and then I'm getting out for zero. Do I want to take profit for only $100? You know, it's coulda, shoulda, woulda in hindsight. But it's a process, and we're going through it. We're learning. We're trying to be better. And there it is. Another day, another dollar. Doing it all live right here on YouTube, 9:15 a.m. If you guys haven't already hit that subscribe button, like button, you know what to do. I'll talk to you guys later on.